Good morning and welcome. Glad that you're joining us for our recording today. We have been very busy lately. I know that you have too. Let me ask you this question. When you are in a super busy season where like all the family is really busy, the kids, both spouses, and it's kind of nuts, who does the cooking? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, so we had a 15-hour day at a paint job yesterday. I feel like one of the cartoons where they put the toothpicks in eyes, like that's what I need to hold them open.
Yeah.
But we were driving home and Lysandra's like, "What are you having for supper?" And I'm like, "I have no idea."
His plan was just to not eat because
I did not feel like making anything.
I do that too sometimes. Like, I don't even care right now. But I'm curious, who cooks when things are crazy? Or are you guys like drive-through people? Do you just like let's just forget about it. We're just going to do drive-through until things slow down. I get why people do that.
Totally.
I totally get it. Maybe you have some go-to meals that are easy. I very much considered ramen last night, which, by the way, I like ramen.
Yeah.
Like, I actually like ramen noodles. Just plain chicken ramen.
But the shrimp are the best.
But I'm going to tell everybody my go-to meal when I'm really tired.
Yeah.
And when I don't want to cook or I didn't plan anything. Because, how can you plan anything? It's a 15-hour workday. And so last night at like 9?
It was after 9. It was almost 10 o'clock.
Okay, almost 10 o'clock. We probably shouldn't have eaten that late. I make sausage patties and eggs.
Scrambled eggs.
Like, yeah, it's so fast. It's so easy. You don't have to thaw the meat. So that's my go-to. What's your go-to? Tell us about it. We're in a busy season. I know you probably are too. We live in a busy season. But today we're not going to talk about busyness.
No, we're not.
Today we are talking about what you expect out of your kids. Like, do you have high expectations of them? Do you believe that they can achieve a lot? Do you believe that they're going to be great? Or do you kind of always think maybe negatively about them or assume the worst?
Do you believe that after 15 hours of painting, you'll come home to a clean kitchen? That might be believing too much.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true because sometimes our expectations can be crushed.
Kind of crazy, but...
But that's what we're going to talk about today. I feel like we're very low energy this morning. I feel hunched over the desk.
I've got high energy.
No, you don't. You never have high energy. Actually, that's not true. Sometimes you're a nut.
Sometimes I am Almond Joy. Sometimes I am Mounds.
Yes.
Because sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. Mm-hmm. Almond Joy's got nuts. Mounds don't.
Was that really the second line? That's really the commercial?
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard the first line. I didn't know about the second line.
Yeah.
That must be before my generation.
It was probably on cable.
Yeah, we didn't have cable.
You're like 4 years older than me.
Younger.
Oh.
All right.
According to the way we look right now, all the viewers are saying you look older than me. I look like I found the fountain of youth.
It's the hat. It's like a disguise. All right, let's record the podcast, shall we?
We shall. Gather around, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm the young one, and this is my wife, the older one.
He's a liar. Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 196 of the Family Meeting podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the idea that what you expect out of your children can actually affect the outcome. You get what you expect from your kids. So we're going to kind of talk about this theory and see how it pans out.
Yeah, because sometimes you expect some things, like basic things.
And your dreams are crushed.
Exactly. Like you expect your kids to at least care about you a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's like I just saw a meme and I shared it in the family meeting community about, it said you have a major head wound and your kid comes up and asks you for Cheerios.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes...
Oh, yeah.
You expect your kids to at least like think about you as a normal human being.
Well, or just notice you at all. Like,
yeah.
I remember one time I was fasting for like 2 weeks, and it was probably 5 days in. We're sitting at the dinner table, and one of the girls was like, "Oh, you're not eating?" Like, it took 5 days for them to notice I wasn't eating at meals. It was so funny. Yeah. So sometimes they just don't even notice us, I think.
And that's typically something you notice right away. It's like everybody's, all right, let's pray, let's eat.
Yeah.
No food in front of one person.
But here's the deal with the whole noticing people. We're all the hero of our own story.
I am the villain in my own story for sure.
Okay. Should I say main character? You're the main character in your story.
No, you're the main character in my story.
Yeah, right. Stop it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the villain, and you have Stockholm Syndrome.
Okay, you might be onto something here. Are we on a movie right now? Is this the Truman Show?
Yep, pretty much.
All right, so, Thomas, what's coming up?
What do we got coming up?
What do we got coming up, baby?
I have no idea right now. I am like, my mind is like,
Mush.
not there.
You guys, okay, so I know most of you listen listen to our podcast, but you can view our podcast through YouTube. What's up, YouTube? So if you get on YouTube today and you put it on your phone or your tablet and then just enlarge on Thomas's eyes, you're going to see.
Zoom in on that.
Look at his eyes. You see those? They look really bad right now.
I got up and I was like, oh man, this is.
Yeah.
We've been at a paint job the last few days, 15 hours yesterday.
I told him, I was like, splash some water on your face or something.
I gotta put a hat on. It covers everything, right?
Yes. Can't see it all.
So I'm not sure what we got coming up. I think we've got some relationship something coming.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about marriage coming up here sometime soon.
July 12th and 13th. Relationship refresh in Flagler Beach. We are excited about that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
I won't be painting, so that's going to be a good thing.
Yeah, we're going to take those days off from other work and enjoy this time of refreshing our relationship too.
Very thankful for the work that we've been getting.
Yeah.
Like we need it, so it's very helpful. But on days like today, it's like after a few long paint days, I'm like,
Yeah, I'm thankful. Very thankful. God is good. All right, so let's talk about our topic today, guys. What we want to do is we want to help you, and we personally want to reframe our view of what our kids are capable of, and to believe good about them. We want to expect good things of our kids. I love the part in the love chapter that says love believes all things. So in 1 Corinthians 13, Paul's giving a really thorough description of what godly love is, real true love. Because, these days love is completely skewed.
yeah.
You fall in and out of love with people and...
It's very self-centered, self-focused.
Absolutely. If I'm happy, I love you. If you stop making me happy, I don't love you anymore. So in 1 Corinthians, I really highly recommend going and reading that if you have time today, or put it on and listen to it while you're doing other work. It gives this description of what real love is. And it may benefit all of us to go through and read 1 Corinthians 13 in the context of parenting. You think about it, love suffers long.
Oh, yeah.
Love is patient. Love is kind. It's hard sometimes to be kind to your kids. So that might be an episode for another day. But what I want to focus in on is verse 7 that says, love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. So that part there right in the middle, it says love believes all things. And as I looked up that word believe, it's used so many times. I didn't write down the number. It's used so many times, but in scripture, it's that belief in someone. And I've heard other people say that it's believing the best about somebody, believing in them. So love believes in people, believes the best about people. Love gives the benefit of the doubt. Okay. Now, we're not talking about blind belief, like someone's lying to you. It's very obvious that they're lying to you. They're deceiving you, but yet you're just going to stupidly be like, nah, okay. That's not what we're talking about, but believing the best about people and believing the best about our kids. And, this can be difficult when you're in kind of that battlefield of parenting.
Oh, yeah.
At least it can feel like a battlefield sometimes.
Well, and it's just not jumping to conclusions, which we often do.
Yes.
Like rather than just, so for instance, I'm just going to give this because this is like our world the last couple of days. We're painting, get home late at night, and this is summertime, right? So our kids don't have a lot going on. They have a few different things happening.
Yeah, they have jobs and things.
Volleyball and different things like that. But it's like most of their day, there's not a lot happening.
Right.
So come home and sink full of dishes that they've created. Like
by themselves.
Like we've not been here to make dirty dishes. So it's not us. And my first thought is like, and this is the exact opposite of probably what it should be, is what in the world have they been doing all day? Like rather than giving them the benefit of the doubt, like, and asking how their day went and what went down and all that kind of stuff, just jumping to conclusions. But when love believes all things, we're not jumping to those conclusions. So but here's the issue. You talk about being battlefield sometime, because we're dealing with our children day in and day out, and that could feel so overwhelming sometimes with everything that we have going on in our lives. And we can start to think of them as little monsters or maybe big monsters.
Yeah.
And we need to reframe our mindset towards our children and believe the best before jumping to a conclusion. When we do this, it could actually change the outcome. And there is a theory that if we believe the best in our children, it can influence them to do their best, try their hardest, and be the best that they can be. Now, there are the parents who are the exact opposite, who are the delusional parents.
Yes.
Like their kid never does anything wrong. It could never be my child or whatever else. So we're not really focusing in on them, because they'd be the outliers in this thing. But
right. Yeah, we're probably the opposite of that. Like typically if some situation goes down and somebody has to come to us and talk to us about our kids, I'm like, I'm sure they're guilty. What'd they do? And they're good. Like we have good kids. We don't deal with any like major things right now anyway.
yeah, right now.
Right now. But yeah, like I'm ready to believe the worst sometimes about my kids. So we're going to talk about that too. Okay, we first heard about this theory when we read a book by an author that neither of us can remember. In fact, Thomas doesn't even remember this portion of the book, I don't think, right?
No, I have no idea what we're talking about. She's like, hey, remember the guy that was in the book that talked about something? And I'm like, no.
Here's what
I
want
have
to...
any idea how many books I have gone through in the last year?
I went through all your Audible books to try to figure out which one it was, because we were listening to it on a trip. But here's the fun part of our podcast today.
Yeah.
Is we're going to give everybody a little scavenger hunt. See if you can find the author. Okay. He's a younger author, so probably 40 or less. And he works with Dave Ramsey. And the book was about him writing his book. And like a teacher that encouraged him and stuff like that. Okay? So now, all of you beautiful listeners, you guys go and try to find this book, because I could not. Are you looking through your book list now?
I am.
We can't do this on the podcast. This is too late now.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Was it my book?
No.
And it wasn't? I don't know. Okay.
You don't have books.
I have books.
No, you don't.
I'm in the middle of a book right now.
What?
Case for Christ.
That's not your book.
I know, but I'm reading it. It's your book that I'm reading. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have your own books.
You're mean to me.
When's the last time you read a book that I didn't suggest for you to read? That's way too long.
I usually hear about his books and I'm like, ooh, I want to read that one next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or he will be like, you need to read this book. Does anybody else have that in their marriage where your spouse is like, you need to read this book? That could be considered quite the insult.
Yeah. How to be a good wife.
He's like, you need this book.
Good mothering.
I burned that book. Okay. Sorry, everybody.
Turns out it's just a book I wrote of stuff I need you to do.
This is oddly specific to our life. Okay, so listen. The book shared a study from NPR, and I'm excited that I was able to find the study. So we're going to talk about this study from NPR. Okay. the idea is that children become what significant others, such as parents and teachers, expect them to become. The first psychologist to systematically study this was a Harvard professor named Robert Rosenthal, who in 1964 did an interesting experiment at the elementary school of south of San Francisco. Okay, so this is the study that we're going to talk about today, and then we're going to kind of put it into play in our parenting.
San
Francisco.
That's a fun city to visit.
Yeah, I love Muir Woods, right outside of San Francisco. It's so quiet and peaceful there.
Just across the Golden Gate.
Yeah.
We should go back there sometime. Now we got friends that live there. We can.
I know.
Bunk up with them.
Yeah. Jay and Gina, we're coming your way.
Yeah. So get the guest room ready. So they did the study, and the idea was to figure out what would happen if teachers were told that certain kids in their class were destined to succeed. In other words, hey, you've got these really bright, like prodigy
gifted children.
Student, right? So Rosenthal took a normal IQ test and dressed it up as a different test, basically lied. And they printed on every test booklet said Harvard test of inflected acquisition.
Sounds important.
Sorry, my eyes are barely opening today. I'm like,
I know.
What does that say?
You should splash water on your face, like I said.
But he told the teachers that this very special test from Harvard had the very special ability to predict which kids were about to be very special. And he used the word special a ton. That is, which kids were about to experience a dramatic growth in their IQ.
Okay.
So it could predict. He wasn't saying their IQ was off the charts. He's saying this test can predict which kids their IQ is just going to pop off and go nuts.
Okay.
So that's the idea behind the test that he's going to give them.
But it was really just a regular old IQ test. Okay, so after the kids took the test, he then chose from every class several children totally at random. There was nothing at all to distinguish these kids from the other kids. But he told the teachers that the test predicted that the kids were on the verge of an intense intellectual bloom. As he followed the children over the next 2 years, Rosenthal discovered that the teachers' expectations of these kids really did affect the students. If teachers had been led to expect greater gains in IQ, then increasingly those kids gained more IQ. So it's not just like magic, right? It's not like speak into the universe and it will be. It's not that. But here's what happened.
Well, what I think is funny as I'm sitting here thinking about this test is, it's like, you're thinking like most of the class is dumb. Like most of the class, it's like a waste of time to even teach these kids. So you spend your time and energy on the kids who are going to succeed.
All right, having had classes, I have taught classes.
Yeah.
Right? And mine was at like kindergarten level. So I'm teaching to read and stuff. And there were some kids who were seriously so bright, probably 2 grade levels ahead of some of the other kids. Like there, you have the average kids, and you have the like really bright kids, and then you have the kids who are slower. And I definitely spent more time with the slower kids because they needed help. I know that. But the kids that were brighter were so much easier. You know what I mean? And it was like, it did kind of feel like, compared to the rest of the students, like these are the bright ones. These 5 over here are bright. I had 21 kids. These 5 are really, really bright.
Yeah.
And the rest are like, they're going to be all right.
Like licking rocks and whatever else.
Yeah. And it's hard not to like, I think, start expecting great things out of the ones who seem great.
And that's kind of the question is, how do expectations influence IQ?
Okay.
And as Rosenthal did more research, he found that expectations affect teachers' moment-to-moment interactions with the children they teach in 1,000 almost invisible ways. So teachers give the students that they expect to succeed more time to answer questions.
Yeah, and this is all subconsciously.
Right.
Like, there's no teacher who's purposefully probably trying to do this.
So giving them more time to answer questions, more specific feedback, and more approval.
The more approval probably is one of the things that has the biggest effect.
Yeah,
affirmation and stuff and encouragement.
well, I think that's part of it too, but even the more specific feedback, right? Because
Yeah.
if they're not getting something in their response, like you're taking time to help make sure that they're understanding the process, which does help them in the long run. They consistently touch, nod, and smile at those kids more.
Oh man,
And then
it makes me feel so sad for the other kids in the class.
yeah, but here's Rosenthal said. He said it's not magic. It's not mental telepathy. It's very likely these thousands of different ways of treating people in small ways every day. And so it's just, you've got a certain opinion in your mind about somebody. And so you just kind of interact with them that way.
And the way we treat them can have the effect on their behavior. It's not magic or anything, but it's about like...
It does impact them.
It impacts them, right. Exactly. Whether they believe more in themselves. So, you've got these parents out there who are like, my mom says I'm special,
Yeah.
My mom gave me an AA plus.
They're definitely homeschooled.
Yeah. And so I understand that there's like that extreme where like, oh, my child can do no wrong. They, participation trophy and everything, right? But then there are like parents out there who are encouraging and uplifting their children to the point where the children believe in themselves. The children believe enough in themselves that they go to try. They at least put the effort in because they do believe that they can achieve something. All right, so since expectations can change the performance of kids, how do we parents have the right expectations? Is it possible to change bad expectations? Can we reframe our thinking towards our kids and start treating them differently and thus affect their outcome? Maybe and maybe not, right? Because ultimately, we all make our own choices. All of our kids are going to make choice after choice after choice that's going to lead them down the road of their life. They may crash and burn and then come up out of the ashes like a phoenix, or they may have a straight and steady course that's kind of boring and uneventful. That's nice. But it's all about their choices and those things. But we might be able to affect, we might be able to help, and it's definitely worth trying. And for sure, we want to love like God says to love. We want to believe all things. We want to believe the best about them. We want to believe in our kids. Basically, though, the thought is innocent until proven guilty. Let's believe that they're innocent until we can really prove that something has really happened. Okay, for instance, this is kind of interesting because one of the examples that they gave was like a teacher who was told, who believed that like boys were naughtier in classes and stuff, and so the kid raises their hand, the little boy, and he's like, I know the answer. And the teacher, all that she does is tell him like, you need to sit down. You're not supposed to talk without permission and everything. Just because she believes that he's the rowdy one and everything. Whereas if she would reframe it and think, okay, he's just excited and interested. I want to hear your answer. Sit down and then you're going to tell me your answer. So rather than jumping all over him, listening to what he has to say. And encouraging the fact that he's excited about the knowledge that he has. Okay, in parenting, your child runs through the house with muddy shoes, and you just lose it on that child for disobeying the rules. The rules are no shoes in the house. When you come in the house, you take off your shoes. And so you just lose it on your child before you have any information or anything. You just assume they're guilty. They have done something wrong. And truly they have. But what you didn't understand before you assumed the worst about your child is that he was told by your husband, his dad, a few minutes ago to run inside and grab a tool from the garage quickly. Don't even stop to take off your shoes. See, like, what do you believe about your child? Do you automatically believe that that child was just naughty?
I feel like this example was just written so you could call me out. Because we don't have a no rules policy, but...
No rules policy.
I mean, no shoes policy.
Gotcha.
Because we do wear shoes in here. Mm-hmm. But if somebody's going to track through the house, it's probably me. Yeah,
I actually had to learn kind of this lesson early on because I would be like, who tracked mud all over the house? And I'm looking at the girls and it's Thomas. Thomas tracked mud all over the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
learned that early on.
expecting. She
I
like
expected-
jumps to the conclusion that it's the kids.
Yeah, but now I don't. Now I jump to the
Now
conclusion
you know it's
that
me.
it's you.
History says it's me. So
Yes. Yeah. So basically, what is our like knee jerk reaction to our kids? Whatever their behavior may be.
So if your child comes home with a terrible grade, you immediately assume she was slacking off in class and didn't turn in her homework. And what really happened was another kid on the bus was sick, threw up in her backpack, and ruined her homework. So she had nothing to turn in to teach her. Now I'm giving her the vomit paper personally. Like,
Was
hey,
you really?
yeah, here it is. Like,
I'd throw away my backpack.
like here it is. Take the whole backpack and everything, but my homework's in it.
Yeah.
But we do sometimes and part of that can be the history of that particular child, right? Like,
yes.
like-
Your pattern shows
like
this.
you kind of know certain kids. It's like from now on, Lysandra just expects that I'm the one who tracks stuff through, even if it's not me, because I have a history of doing that.
Right. But the point of this episode is to stop doing that, to stop expecting the worst from your kids, even if they do have a pattern of behavior. Like, before you jump to that conclusion, find out if that's really what happened again.
Yeah.
Or if there is a special circumstance.
But having having reasonable expectations for your kids is the start.
Yeah.
You know, just hey, that like what should be taking place in our country is innocent until proven guilty. It's supposed to be. It's not always the case, but it should be in our house too, right? Innocent until proven guilty. All right. Let's not jump to conclusions. Who is the one? And all right, tell me about the circumstances. Why is there mud tracked through the house? Why did you get the bad grade? Like, explain it to me.
Yeah.
And give them an opportunity to kind of share their story and their reasoning behind. Mm-hmm. You know, is it something you're not understanding in class? Like, did something happen? Like, what's the circumstances for the bad grade that you brought home now? Instead of just jumping all over them because they failed this class or they failed this test.
And this is not how we were raised. You and we were not raised that way. We were raised obviously in different homes. But I would say...
I mean, we'd have to live in a different state if we weren't raised in different homes.
Wouldn't you agree that both of our sets of parents were much more of like, something happened, discipline. Like,
oh, totally.
There were no conversations.
Not really, no.
It was not like, explain to me why you thought this. And if somebody was asking their kid how they felt, they were like new age, wishy-washy, crazy
Yeah, because it didn't matter.
It doesn't matter how your kid feels. Did they do right or wrong? And I understand that thinking, like right is right, wrong is wrong. But there is more to it. Like, what was happening in that kid's mind and stuff. And we're going to get to like the fact that you can't just not discipline. Okay. So we're getting there. I know some of you are like, wait a minute though. We are going to talk about that. But here's the question I want to ask you. Okay.
You ask me.
I want, not you, but you too. I'm talking to our listeners right now.
Oh, okay. You were looking at me.
I was not. I was giving you side eye, but, okay. Ask yourself this question. Do you expect your child to fail?
Which child?
Go through the list.
I've got 4 of them.
Go through the list.
Yes, no, yes, yes.
And it could be athletically, professionally, academically, socially. Like, what are we talking, right? Okay. Do you feel like one child is college material and the other isn't? Don't answer that.
Well, here, and this is the thing, right? So this question here.
Okay.
Like, for some, it's just, that's not going to be their route in life.
Yeah, and that's okay.
So here's where the expectation is not, like, I don't think it's a wrong expectation to feel like one child is college material and the other isn't. Like, that's not a wrong expectation because it may be reality. The wrong expectation would be expecting that child to be able to do the work and go to college when maybe they can't, or that's not their goal in life.
Okay. And I am inclined to agree with you. Usually we're on the same page. But here's the kind of devil's advocate. Here's the other side of that. All right, if you feel like one kid is child material or college material and the other child isn't, then what you might end up doing, even if it's subconsciously, is the one that you think is college material is getting all the help and the extra encouragement for school, and the other child isn't, because there's a deep, dark place in your brain that says, don't waste your time. They're not going to go to college anyway. See what the other side of this thinking is? And I get what you're saying. Like, I'm more inclined to agree with what you just said, but that's the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
Something to think about. So.
Yeah, and I can see that, but I think having the right expectation for your kid comes along with understanding who they are.
Yeah.
What their limitations are.
And what their goals are.
And exactly. So obviously, if you have a kid we had a kid, one of our daughters who was struggling with reading comprehension. And we knew that. And so we were able to get her help for her reading competition. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Neither
comprehension. And so, to get her up to where she needed to be. So part of that is recognizing where they are. Like honestly, all your kids, you can expect whatever you want. All your kids are not going to be millionaires. Like they don't have that in them, statistically speaking. So, but here's simple rules to follow when trying to believe the best about your child. So, as a parent, we just want to believe the best. First, ask questions in a loving way. Okay? So start by just asking some questions instead of just jumping to conclusions, and asking in a loving way.
Okay, that's a really important one, isn't it?
Yeah.
The way that you ask questions.
Yeah, because here we'll ask the question in a couple of different ways.
Okay.
So when your child has done something seemingly terrible, ask, what happened here?
Okay.
Instead of, what happened here? Like,
wow, tone of voice,
like
right?
asking in a loving way, right? Like, tell me what you were thinking. Like that.
Yeah, that's not good.
Like, no, just explain to me what you were thinking right here.
When this horrible explosion happened.
Exactly.
What were you thinking when you threw the pop can of gasoline into the fire? What were your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, well, there's the problem.
Oh man, I remember that line.
So asking questions in a loving way, those two need to go together. Mm-hmm. And just give them a chance to explain themselves before administering their severe punishment, right? Instead of just jumping to conclusions and bringing the hammer down. All right, let's have a conversation about it. Like, tell me your side of the story. Tell me exactly what happened. Let me hear it and try to understand what was going on. Just taking some time to hear them out. And
this applies to little toddlers. I mean, as soon as they can talk, right? Okay, what happened? Why did you, whatever. And it goes all the way through teenagers. This is really important with teenagers. Teenagers often feel like they are not heard. They often feel like nobody understands them, nobody cares about them, nobody wants to hear what they have to say. And then even adult children, I think, because there are times when we can feel, as adults, we can feel our parents being proud of us or disappointed in us. Oh, my parents are just proud. Really? Yes, I am amazing. You are pretty amazing, I agree. But your parents have been disappointed in you. No, they have not. I've never given them a reason to. Oh, why can't we all be perfect just like you? I mean, there was one time they were disappointed, but that was like 21 years ago. When you got married to me? I think they got over it. We hope so. Once you gave them grandkids, they got over it. Oh, okay. I don't remember now what I was saying. Oh, hearing them out. Seriously. I told Thomas before we started this episode, I was like, this is going to be a rough one. Because we're so tired. Our brains are not. Doesn't help when you start off the episode with Webster's Dictionary defines. I did not say that. I'm not allowed to anymore because he always makes fun of me. Okay. As your child explains. That's like those guys who are preaching and they're talking about something and it's like Webster's Dictionary define. I'm like, you lost me right there because nobody cares what Webster has to say about it. I like to hear definitions of words. I do. I like that. I know you want to make fun of me, but there are people out here listening who say, oh, me too. I want to hear the definitions of the word. No, it helps me understand. Okay.
They're sleeping.
No.
They fell asleep.
Somebody out there, comment on this episode and tell Thomas you agree. You want to hear the definition sometimes, not all the time. I don't want to hear every definition all the time, but there are times when that helps. You're like, oh wow, All right, stop it. I can't. Don't even look at me. All right, listen. We've heard our kids out. I'm getting back to the topic.
All right.
You be quiet.
You got me sidetracked with the Webster's Dictionary.
You be quiet. All right. You've heard your kids out. You've let them talk to you about whatever craziness happened, whether it's the bad grade or it's the messy house or it's the clogging the toilet or it's the corn up the nose, like whatever it may be.
Legos up the nose. We had one of our kids that shoved everything up their nose.
Yes, everything. All right. As your kid explains what happened, remember, they don't reason things out like adults do. Okay? Even teenagers don't reason things out like adults do.
Some adults don't reason things out like adults should.
That's very true. But you've got to let them, you need to hear what they have to say. How did they get from point A to point Z, right? Like what was the path there? Because there was a path. There was a path. And let them hear. And the path could have just been like, my goal was to have fun. That might be the only path. The only stop on their path was they just wanted to make sure they had fun today. But just hear them out and listen to them. Because
their reasoning probably made sense to them.
Yeah, exactly. So relax and help them to understand why they made a bad decision on this particular situation. Help them to see the other way out of the situation. So, okay, in the future, when you see the door is unlocked and you're leaving the house and the door is unlocked and you see that it's open a crack, rather than leaving and thinking probably it'll be okay, you're going to take the time to turn around and go ahead and lock the door just in case, because the wind could blow it wide open and then animals could come in.
Did you know that actually happened recently with our youngest daughter?
No, but I do know that. Well, I don't know. Do I know?
Because I was sitting here. I don't know if she knew I was sitting here, and she went to take the dog out, and of course I hear the door like shut, but it doesn't shut because our stupid latch thing's
we got a
broken.
latch problem.
And so, like, the door just opens wide up, like, within seconds. And she didn't even, like, bother to turn around and check.
Okay.
And so I got up and I hollered, like, I could see her.
Yeah.
Like, I'm standing in my living room and I can look right out the door and see her. And I'm like, hey, like, the door's wide open.
And in Florida, we have frogs and lizards, those I don't mind.
And it's hot out.
Well, yeah, it's hot, but I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about the other things that could come in.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about the air conditioning. It's like,
okay, Dad.
I'm not like trying to air condition the outside here.
You sound like my dad.
He sounds awesome.
Okay, so it did kind of happen the other day when I came downstairs and the door was wide open, and I was like, that's weird. And then I realized that Coconut was gone and he was taking his walk, and so one of the kids left the door open, but I don't know who it was. Anyway,
I will not jump to conclusions about which one it is, even though I know which one it was.
You are not listening to our episode.
I am. I told you I'm not jumping to conclusions.
But you know.
Because they did it twice. No matter.
Okay.
So next thing to do is do a comprehension check.
Okay.
Like, do you understand why your choice was wrong? And try to help them to see the logical steps here. Do you see what you could have done instead? Right? Same thing we should do about if our kids are failing a test or something else, instead of just jumping to a conclusion that they weren't paying attention, they were messing around, they were talking, they were passing notes or whatever else. All right, do you understand the subject matter? And the same is true in this circumstance. Okay, well, what will you do next time? And have them kind of talk through and explain, okay, next time this happens, I'm going to turn the handle down, pull it until I can hear it latch, just to make sure that the door is not going to blow right back open again. Or here's Lysandra's favorite question. Did you learn a lesson from this?
I don't sound like that. You're so mean.
You sound like that to all of us. Roar.
Fine. Good. I'm glad I sound like that.
Did you learn a lesson from this?
Yeah. I ask my kids that all the time. I'm pretty sure that one day when we're all like sitting around and we're old and they have kids, they're going to tell their kids, my mom always asked me if I learned a lesson.
Yeah, except for you were speaking without opening your mouth at all and just your teeth were showing in a smile.
I did not.
Did you learn a lesson from this?
Yeah, no.
That's when you know you're upset.
Yeah, when I talk through my teeth. But seriously, like, I ask that all the time. Like, okay, I want to make sure that you learn the lesson. I don't want to move on from this until I know that you got it in your mind that, like, this was a bad outcome. And next time we don't want it to be like this. So did you learn the lesson?
Do you think typically they do learn the lessons from it?
Yeah, most of the time I do. Okay, did you catch that the other day I asked you if you learned a lesson from it?
No.
It was the paint tray.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
The paint tray. Because you weren't going to use your roller for a little while, and I told you to bag the paint tray, and then you didn't the next time. And I was like, okay, now we have to clean out this, like, top layer of hard paint. Did you learn your lesson from this? Like, are you not going to do this next time? And I realized I was talking to you like a child.
You do that to me all the time, so I don't even notice.
I was like, he's going to hate me. You don't remember. So you didn't learn your lesson then?
No.
Okay.
You didn't check for comprehension.
There's no comprehension.
That's an important lesson.
Yes,
you got to do the comprehension check.
That's true. All right, lastly, respond appropriately. If they were wrong, they were wrong. Okay? Maybe they need a punishment, a consequence, some action. So we're not saying to only talk it all up, talk it all out. But we're also saying, yes, talk to them, but go ahead and do the consequence that's the right consequence before assuming the worst about them. So thinking about the mud on the shoes rather than just like screaming at them, you're grounded for 3 weeks, be like, okay, so you were doing what your dad said, even though, your dad told you to disobey the rules. Your only consequence is going to be cleaning up the muddy footprints.
Right, yeah.
Because the rest was okay, but you do have to clean up the mess. Okay. So we're not saying they don't deserve any kind of punishment or consequence to their actions, but we are saying hear them out and figure out what's going on first. And don't always believe the worst.
Okay, so let's give a real life example from our own household.
Oh, great.
So we live in Florida, which means year round there's bugs. Mm-hmm. So we have a rule, like, you can't leave your dishes just laying around because we'll get ants. Mm-hmm. So we have a living room upstairs where the kids hang out. They watch TV. That's kind of their space. And they were leaving their trash and their dishes and whatever else. So we got ants like crazy. So we made a rule, like, you can't leave your dishes and trash upstairs in the living room.
Seems reasonable.
You've got to bring them down to the sink. And so we made the rule, and it just kept happening. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, we got to come up with a repercussion for this. And it's got to be a repercussion that is going to make them want to change their behavior and think about it, because now they've got a pattern of just leaving their stuff laying. So all of our kids really don't like doing dishes. Mm-hmm. Most human beings don't like doing dishes. Mm-hmm. So, all right, if you leave your stuff, you're going to have to do dishes by yourself for a certain amount of time.
1 week was the rule. And
so that changed behavior right away. Mm-hmm. So when we walk upstairs and whenever it is and we see a dish laying there, it's like, okay, I'm not going to jump to conclusions about who it is and why they've left it here. Let's figure out whose it is. Mm-hmm. Like, who left it there. In fact, this just happened the other day. Mm-hmm. And
was it who you thought it would be?
Not at all.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
I was really surprised at who it was.
Yeah. So rather than jumping into conclusion, okay, whose dish is this? Actually, I think I took a picture. Nobody was home. Took a picture of it. And I said, sucks to be whoever left this upstairs.
Yeah, to our family group chat.
And they were just silent.
Nobody said a word.
Nobody's responding. Like, oh no, I gotta do dishes. But having like, instead of just jumping to conclusions and calling one of our daughters out who has a history of doing it, like, most of the time it is them. But it's not right for me to assume it is always them. And it's always going to be them. Because it's not always. And this circumstance proved it. Like, it wasn't the child that I thought it would be. And so rather than calling it out, it's like, okay, whose is this? Who left it upstairs? What happened? Tell me what happened. And most of the time it is like, hey, I just forgot. I got sleepy. I got tired. I got whatever.
I had to rush out.
But we have the conversation. Well, there's still the consequence, right? You still have to clean up after yourself, and you're still going to be the one who's going to be doing the dishes for a while because you broke the rule.
Exactly.
And all the other kids are like, yes, I don't have to do dishes for a while, so I'm going to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. Oh,
dirty every dish that you can.
Exactly. It's like, okay, we've got 3 different things for this meal. I want all of them in a separate dish.
This is really funny because whenever one of the kids has to do dishes for a week by themselves because they left their dish up, I do dishes more that week than any other week ever.
I know, you're so helpful.
Because I can't stand, it's like so much work for them. It's awful. Anyway.
And I'm like, girls, get all the bowls out.
Let's teach them a lesson.
I want a spoonful of everything in each of these bowls.
You're mean. Okay, so bottom line, though, is what are you believing about your children? Are you believing the best? Are you believing the worst? Are you giving them hope that they really can achieve things, that they can please you, that they can have good behavior, good grades, whatever it may be? Or are you just immediately assuming the worst about them, and that's going to actually affect their behavior?
So family meeting tonight is to sit down and just have a full family conversation about expectations. And this is a good conversation to have with your kids, and just ask them, do you feel like I have right expectations for you? Do you feel like I expect too much? Do you feel like I don't, have the right expectations? Do you feel like we jump to conclusions about certain things? And that can be hard to hear the feedback, but it can be good for your relationship with your kids. And we've had some hard conversations in the past with our kids like this, about jumping to conclusions and those sorts of things. So we've had this conversation, and we've had a lot of these conversations. And it's in the moment, it's like never fun. It doesn't feel good as a parent sometimes because you do jump to the wrong conclusions a lot of times. But in the long run, it helps your relationship with them to be able to work through it in your own family, but also to help them, right, try to set up the right expectations for if they have kids or just their interactions with people on a day-to-day basis. Whether that's friends or teachers or other people. So it could be a difficult conversation, but I think it'll be a helpful conversation.
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org. You want to get your tickets for Relationship Refresh, just hit the shop button and you'll find it right there. Just $25 a couple. familymeeting.org/shop. You can also email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we discuss silence in marriage.
Sounds amazing.
Silence is golden, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we want to talk about how to be comfortable with it, but also how to break the silence to achieve deeper intimacy when needed.
Now, what kind of intimacy we mean here?
Emotional.
Oh.
You're going to love it.
Sounds exciting.
Emotional intimacy leads to physical intimacy.
I've not found that to be true yet.
That's because we're not emotionally intimate.
Oh.
So listen to next week's episode.
Okay. Count me in.
For more marriage advice, follow Thomas and Lysandra.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned. Why are you always yawning after every episode?
I got up at 5. Give me a break. We worked until like 9:30 and I got up at 5.
Yeah.
Come on now.
It's early.
Thank you for joining us today on YouTube. Because you watched on YouTube and didn't listen, you can see his eyes. And I want to say that they're starting to open a little bit more. He looks a lot less drowsy, so you woke him up. Good job.
Yeah.
Very good. Let's hear your advice. Let's hear what's happened in your house with your expectations with your kids.
And what you think about Webster's Dictionary.
I know that you appreciate definitions of certain words. Sometimes it can be helpful. I know that you feel that way, but please tell us, because I need to win this argument.